I'm Christa Hill.
And I'm Renee Matsella.
And we are the founders of Tacit Edge, a tech education company dedicated to shifting the demographics of women and visible minorities graduating into product management at top companies around the world.
And this is our podcast, Product for Humans, where we explore the human side of product management. We'll answer all your burning questions like, what is product management? What is a product? How do you get started? And why do you belong in product management? That's right, because you belong. We hope you enjoy the show. Yes, welcome everyone to another Product for Humans. We're joined by Tom Alvarez. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you, Tom. Like, I describe our relationship out in the product world with so many product people where we have a product chosen family. And you are in that product chosen family.
Definitely.
I think like we go, so far back, and you've been such a great supporter of the work that we do and what we're trying to do in industry. So we thank you for that.
Yeah, and likewise. When did we connect, actually? I was trying to put my thumb on it. When did we first meet?
We had a mutual friend who was talking about us individually to each other. And then we finally got to converge in like a professional realm. But Bailey, who I worked with, yes, at Benevity, a beloved user experience professional and just one of the finest humans out there, knew you. And that's all I needed to know.
You can just tell the product kindred spirits. Well, Tom, we're just like so happy that you could be here because you're in such a unique position, being the first product person, the CPO at a rapidly growing startup, Goodlawyer. So we're going to talk a ton about what it's like working at a rapidly growing startup, especially when you're a leader. And when you're the first product person and a leader, that's a whole other experience that is really unique. So we'll talk about that, talk about your path into product. But if you wouldn't mind just doing a quick intro about yourself and tell us about yourself and Goodlawyer.
Yeah, okay. So I'm Tom. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Goodlawyer. I'm one of the co-founders. I had a bit of a meandering path into product. So I originally went to school for mechanical engineering. I graduated in, I think it was 2011. And then I shipped off to Fort Mac. I worked an engineering job in Fort Mac for a little under a year, was pretty unhappy with it. I came back to Calgary. I worked a couple more engineering jobs in Calgary for a couple more years. And like, ultimately it was just realized it wasn't the career path for me. It wasn't really fulfilling work. I think the biggest thing that I wasn't getting out of it was like seeing the tangible like impacts of my work. I was designing rotating mechanical parts for an LNG plant in northern BC. So it was very disconnected from my work. And I just didn't feel like I was actually getting to see anything that I was doing. So that kind of inspired me to go back to school. I was thinking of doing the architecture program at U of C, and you need a portfolio, basically a design portfolio or an art portfolio, something creative in your application to the master's program. And I didn't have that. So then I started taking night classes at ACAD here in Calgary, which is now the Alberta University of the Arts. It was ACAD when I went. And I just really fell in love with the school, with the education, with the graphic design stuff and the art stuff I was doing. And I decided to just stay at ACAD and do a bachelor's in graphic design. In my last year at graphic design school, one of my longtime friends since we were like 15, Brett Colvin, you guys obviously know Brett, the CEO of Goodlawyer. He had been a lawyer at one of Canada's largest firms for about 5 years at this point. And he had one of the classic startup, there has to be a better way type of moment, and he wanted to start a thing. He had this name for it called Goodlawyer. That was basically the only thing we had set in stone back then. So he asked me to do some branding for him, some graphic design stuff, maybe some marketing assets, and that snowballed into designing our first website and then working with Parker, who was our CTO, to design the first version of our app and UI stuff. And that's how it all has snowballed over time into product management. So yeah, I came into it with a design lens and now it's a product. But what Goodlawyer actually does, again, we've been on a bit of a journey over the last few years. We've had a couple pivots on the product has changed here and there, but we are now, and the product that's really scaling and going well for us is fractional legal placements. So we are basically revolutionizing the way that scale up and mid-market enterprise companies are getting legal support. So traditionally, they are outsourcing their legal work to law firms, big firms, or they're hiring full-time in-house legal talent. And there's this really big gap where if you need someone for less than full-time, or you have a project or something like that, those needs are just not really well met by the traditional offering. And what we're doing is essentially giving these companies the ability to hire lawyers on a part-time basis. So it's very flexible. It's very integrated and embedded into the business. So they're just getting way more tailored legal support than they would get if they were calling the firm and having to explain a project and work with the firm on whatever it is they need. Or like I mentioned earlier, just hiring a full-time in-house legal counsel, where a lot of the scale-up customers especially just don't have that volume of legal needs. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. So we're working on the fractional GC and the fractional in-house product.
Wow. As fellow fractional folks and also fellow startup founders, like it really is resonating, because traditionally, I think how startups do legal counsel is read the contract and hope for the best. So you're solving like obviously a huge real problem. And to know that it started from just, let's just do some graphic design work here, this over here. Like that story into product is so unique, but that's so often how it goes.
It's so interesting because we get that comment a lot from students and prospective folks that want to be in product. They're like, what's the job I need? What is the path, Christa? And it's a life well lived is the only thing I can say. Like a really wholesome, great experience in this world. And then you take those skills and you just apply it to the problems that are in front of you, and you build that skill set as you go. It's so awesome to hear that.
Totally. Yeah. That's one thing that has become like so obvious to me in my kind of 5 years in product, is that basically any background can do product. There's not a product degree that you can go get. So it's like all the people I've met in product are maybe a design background, a development background, a business analytics background, a finance background. It's like all these people who work in this like very broad range of roles and education, and they somehow or another get sucked into product roles. Yeah, it's a really cool role in that way.
It is. And you mentioned, so you were an engineer and you have a design background. Like what did that give you to be so effective in product management?
For sure. So I think the main thing that I took away from engineering, at least, that I can apply to product management is maybe a sense of problem solving and a good sense for processes, and just really thinking about how to approach problems. And I guess you could say I got some of that from design as well. Like when you're designing something, you obviously have a process that you follow. And that's a big part of the education in the design program, is that they really try to hammer process into all of the projects and all of the education. But beyond that, how do I apply it day to day now too, is also a lot of UI design, UX design, really working closely with the engineering team on wireframing and prototyping stuff. And then as a founder, you also get pulled into other things. So I do a lot of assets for the marketing team. And I don't know if you saw the yacht party poster for this year, but that's how I spent my weekend, was designing the yacht party poster. So yeah, but I'd say problem solving. Problem solving is really the biggest like takeaway that I got from engineering.
That is so interesting. And so if we talk a little bit about process, and you say like from your design background, if you look at how product was practiced early days of you and the founder team and just the core group that got this off the ground versus product now at Goodlawyer, can you describe how the role has changed for you and almost like what you had to let go of in order to welcome some new things in? Because we do try to really work with folks to understand that the job changes as the product changes. So can you take us through a little bit of that history?
For sure. So I'll start with something I had to let go of in this role. Part of design school is you get one kick at the can, you hand in a project, and then you get a grade on it. So I was very strict with myself about working hard on these projects. I was pretty much a straight A student. I was important to me. As my second degree, I really wanted to knock it out of the park. A sense of perfectionism is something that I really had to let go of in product. That's just the nature of product, is that it's very iterative. And that Pareto principle of you get 80% of good enough in 20% of the time. And the last 20% to reach perfection is actually 80% of the time. So for me, it was really being able to just put stuff out at 80% and get feedback on it and iterate on it, because it's going to change and it's going to get iteration and evolve. So I think that letting go of that sense of perfectionism and just being like, yeah, this thing's good enough. Let's start getting feedback on it was something that was definitely a bit of a mental and sort of personal obstacle to overcome. But then as far as how process is and how we do product has changed, something that we've been really leaning into for the last 5-6 months or so has been this framework of jobs to be done. And within jobs to be done framework, you have these 3 buckets. You have the functional jobs to be done, which is like the day to day, like what are your clients or your users actually doing? But then going a layer deeper, you have emotional and social jobs to be done. These emotional and social needs, which are basically like the why of what they're doing. And it's just become very obvious that working on those and finding a way to address those, which is more challenging because you have to figure it out yourself. Like it's not the customer telling you, I need X feature. It's the customer telling you, I feel X thing. And you have to figure out a feature that solves it. But when you can solve those jobs to be done and those emotional and social needs, it's way more impactful from a product point of view. And it's way more sticky and beneficial to your customers compared to how we were doing things way back when we started and none of us really knew how to do product. We were really leaning onto the functional, customers are saying that they need X feature, so let's go build X feature. And now we've really gone back to the fundamentals of the emotional and social stuff and doing a lot of discovery and really trying to dig like 5 layers deeper into why our lawyers or our clients are saying something, and way more experimentation on trying to solve these problems and address these needs. So much smaller, more iterative learnings instead of, okay, they said they need a feature. Let's build the feature. Let's release it. And then let's get feedback on it. It's just way more like smaller bite-sized learnings that we're doing through experiments. So, I hope that answers it. I hope it wasn't too long-winded, but that I would say is in a nutshell, the change of then versus now.
And thanks so much for sharing that really tactical framework around jobs to be done. It's been around for almost 2 decades. We're talking about things that are not new ideas, but they get us back to the core of the humanity of the why we're doing the things. And not that just the jobs to be done, but I would say the way that you're applying that framework and applying the emotional component of it and really getting at the heart of the core motivator of not just the thing that people are doing, but the why behind the thing that we're doing. And when we think about product of the future being like very much driven on emotional intelligence, really getting at the why behind things, which goes past just the need and into what's happening with that person in their lives, because our customers are more sophisticated than ever before. We can't just use the old playbook. So when you think about like how you've done that, it's incredible. And what a difference it can make in your product.
Yeah. And it's just made it so much clearer to us too, who our customers are and what are the problems we need to solve. And it's, again, from this sort of like problem solving, like challenging point of view, it's really a lot more interesting than just being told that they need a thing, so you go build the thing. It's like being told that they steal away and now you have to run experiments and make little iterations and tweaks. And like, it's really a lot more of that like problem solving piece that I think we were missing before. So yeah, it's been super interesting. I'm happy with the change for sure. I think it's going to be very fruitful.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. And it's not easy to do that. There's a reason we Christa calls it the would you like fries with that? It's, oh, can you build this thing? Okay, yeah, we can build it. Do you want fries with that? Versus, oh, you feel this way. Okay, why do you feel that way? What's at the core? What problem are you trying to solve? What does success look like when that problem is solved? That's a lot of ambiguity and it can be heavy. You're digging into people's emotions. And then when you're working with a team, then there's also people on the team that are experiencing and hearing sometimes hard stuff. How did you bring this to a team and roll it out so people are on board to do a more iterative experimentation or experimentative method?
Yeah, short and simple. We hired someone with some really serious product chops and a really decorated resume, if you will. And he had the credibility and the authority to tell us, this is how you do it. And we all bought into that. And I think we were at a point where this fractional piece is pretty new from, I would say, the technology or the product point of view. We've been running the whole fractional thing pretty manually for the last a year and a bit, and really wanted to validate that fractional was going to work and that fractional was going to be the core piece of our revenue, and we had close to product market fit. And we didn't want to start building stuff for it until we had that validated. And then once we had it validated, we were like, okay, we're basically at ground zero again from a product point of view. And we need to do this right. And we can't afford to do the same things we've been doing for the last 4 years, which is making it up as we go and learning as we go. We need to have someone who actually knows what they're doing. So we hired this guy, Simon Greganis. He is, very decorated. Like I said, he's had a couple of successful startup exits. One was acquired by Google. Another one was acquired by some investors. He was the head of product at Arc'teryx for a year. He's a product advisor for Andreessen Horowitz to some of their startup cohorts. He's a product advisor to the 500 global V startup portfolio. So yeah, he's definitely got the chops. And I think he came in here and he basically just said, this is how it is. You can either do it this way or I'm going to take off. And we said, no, that sounds great. So we've been following a bit of his advice and working closely with him, and it's been excellent.
Oh, so shout outs. And then, you're developing a fractional product and you're using a fractional help as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
I'm so curious because you talked about going from listening to what our customers are saying, just building what they ask for, to, oh, we have a new market opportunity. That's a big pivot and a big new venture. How did you know that it was time to go after something new?
Yeah, fractional really started organically. So previous to fractional, and we still have this, but the big sort of product that we built and the big sort of business model of Goodlawyer was that we were a legal services marketplace. So we had a client app and a lawyer app, and clients could come on, they could request some services. Lawyers would give them a fixed fee quote. Clients would book the quote, and then the lawyers would work together and we would handle all the sort of billing and the admin and all that stuff for the lawyers. But what we saw was we had maybe 4 or 5 of our best power user clients, and their businesses were growing. They were growing fast. They were starting to have more recurring and constant legal needs, just operational legal stuff. They were doing a bunch of sales contracts, and they just had so many contract reviews going that this process of booking a lawyer, getting a quote, doing the billing, it was starting to get a bit in the way of the efficiency and the speed that they needed from their legal support. So they said, hey, we love Goodlawyer. We love our lawyer. We're just going to pay the lawyer $5,000 a month for a full day a week, and we'll just toss contracts at them as they come up. We don't want to make a quote for every single one. And we started seeing that from 4, 5, 6 customers. And we were like, okay, I think there's something here. It was recurring because they were doing it every single month. So it was recurring revenue, pretty high revenue compared to single, smaller legal services, and really good customer satisfaction and lawyer satisfaction. So we said, okay, this also opens the door to some bigger clients, right? Some scale up clients, maybe some enterprise clients that already have in-house legal teams. So yeah, we just said, okay, let's pull on this thread. Let's explore it. And we just ran the whole thing manually during outbound sales, setting up sales calls and discovery meetings, virtually all manually, putting the lawyers in contact with the clients, helping them get onboarded, helping them get integrated. We still handle all the billing and stuff for them, but it wasn't touching the marketplace platform. So that was really how we ran it for the last year and a half. Basically, October of 2022 was when we had that first client be like, this marketplace is great. It's not working for us anymore. We want to do this fractional thing. So yeah, a little over a year, maybe a year and a half, and it's pretty well validated. We've got way bigger clients and logos than we had a year and a half ago. So we knew it was time to actually make this the kind of core of our product.
Tom, can you share a little bit about like who you talked to? What was the process where you sat down with those companies? And because we talk a lot about discovery with our students, and I know we've got actually a few tuned in that are in our cohort right now. I'm sure they've got questions. And I just want to say to folks, if you do have questions for us to ask Tom, please don't be shy. Throw them in the chat. We're happy to break away from our just overwhelming amount of curiosity that we have for the work that Tom does every day. But we don't necessarily talk about how we did the research and things that maybe didn't go smooth. Because of course, we try things as product people and behind the scenes, they may not always go to plan. Can you maybe share a little bit about the discovery of you saw that behavior, you saw an opportunity, you wanted to validate if you could build more of the business around it. What were some of the tactical things that you decided to do as a product org to try and flesh that out and just really validate for yourself with qualitative and quantitative tactics to just figure that out instead of just feeling it out like you had in the past?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of it was very sales-led, operations-led, customer support-led. So the first thing we did was we set up outbound campaigns. We picked the snack bracket of scale-ups, targeting CFOs, CEOs, who were the kind of like decision makers at those level of companies. And we just set up some big outbound campaigns to set up discovery calls. We highlighted some of the pain points that we thought they were dealing with. And it was just about refining that. So they would book a meeting with us. We would talk to them. We would do a little bit of discovery, a little bit of sales, and we were just like iterating on our messaging, and that's kind of stuff we would put in the outbound. And then the same goes for when we would close those deals and we would actually get a client that wanted to hire this lawyer. From the operations point of view and the customer success team point of view, we were doing the same thing. We're like, okay, we onboarded them this way and like this piece worked, this piece didn't work. So let's iterate on the next one that we onboard. Let's do this again, but let's change the way we did this piece. It was really, I'd say, very qualitative for the first majority of the time. Probably the quantitative piece that we were really looking at was the revenue, the recurring revenue, the churn, how often mandates renewed, et cetera. The size of the mandates was another one. So we were seeing that when we set up these mandates for less than 2 days a month, like if there was really small fractional ones where they wanted to do between 10 and 15 hours a month, we saw a predominant amount of churn coming from those smaller mandates. And those smaller mandates were still really well handled by the platform. So setting up some limits on who we will actually sell fractional to. And if someone says, yeah, I really want fractional, I have about like 10 to 12 hours of legal needs every month, we'll say, you might actually not be that good for fractional. Let's start you off on the marketplace first. Whereas at the very beginning, we were like, anyone who wants fractional, come here, we'll give you fractional. So yeah, it was very qualitative and very much sales and customer support led.
There's so much to be learned just by the folks that we're working with every single day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And kudos to you for being so like open-minded, asking many different people, looking to many different data points. And everything you're talking about, I see like just the undercurrent is willingness to learn, willingness to let go, willingness to be proven wrong, willingness to try something new, throw out what was working before for something new. What have you done to be able to live in that type of constant growth?
I think the thing that really has facilitated that for our team, at least, is that we're all doing this for the first time. It's Brett's first time being the CEO of a tech company. It's Parker's first time being the CTO of a tech company. It's my first time doing product. It's Grant's first time being head of growth. It's Josh's first time being COO. It's Taylor's first time being head of operations. So although we might have like relevant experience that makes us the person on the team who has fallen into that role, it's still all of our first times. And I think we all are just very cognizant of what it will take to succeed as a startup and what it's going to take to really grow the business. And I think we're all just willing and open to learn more and be better every day. I don't think anyone on our team thinks that they have all the answers. So
I think I have to say we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we love working with entrepreneurs because of exactly what you just said. And we find even people who've been entrepreneurs many times, they're still like, oh, I still have so much more to learn, because there's always different factors, different users, different markets, different, like the world is constantly changing. And so the fact that you all are able to just live in that and be like, this is our first time is incredible. And how do you like support each other through that? Like, how do you work together around these challenging topics and these ups and the roller coaster? How do you support each other?
That's me, right? And you have a pretty well evolved team now at this point. So what does that look like for you all as you navigate scale, essentially?
yeah, I think a really big sort of factor that makes us a good team is the fact that a lot of us are really longtime friends. Like I mentioned, I've known Brett since we were 15. Parker, the CTO and our other third co-founder, he is the younger brother, another friend of ours that we've had since we were like 15. Taylor, we went to high school with Taylor. Josh, we went to high school with Josh. Him and Brett played on the same soccer teams. That kind of like core team. Same with Grant. He's known Parker for a long time. We've all just known each other for a long time. And it's like this, I don't know, it's like you're in the trenches together. Like you almost kind of form this camaraderie that is, I don't know, you guys, you've seen some shit together, and it makes you stronger. And I think a little more forgiving and understanding of things. And then beyond that, again, just our willingness to admit that we don't know what we don't know, and that this is new for everybody. And to your point, as we scale, it's not the same business that it was 2 years ago. And this is the first time we're all doing this as well. So I think just really being open to learning, being open to the fact that there's people out there who have done this, like hiring Simon, saying, you know what, we got to get this right this time. Let's actually hire someone with a track record of success and learn from them. We've all been doing some executive coaching for the last 3 or 4 months. We actually started it with a small cohort on the team. So 4 of us did this executive leadership coaching program where there's a lot of like individual personal work that was done on it. There was also some group sessions between the 4 of us where we had to work on some different tactics and frameworks for feedback and hard conversations, etc., which have been super impactful and super helpful for us, to the point that we're now going to start a second cohort with 4 more people on the leadership team to go through this training program. I think it's just that mentality of no one here knows the answer for sure. And we all know that. And no one is too proud to admit that they are wrong or that they don't know. So that's been, I think, a really big factor in us being able to weather the storms and get through the ups and downs.
And grow as humans during this experience. If you look back at who you were when we first met a few years ago to Tom that's now on this call, Like, what do you think has been the biggest shift from a career perspective and also personally in this journey for you?
Totally. So I think personally, definitely like a sense of fulfillment that I didn't have, like I said before, in engineering or anything like that. I absolutely love my job. It's the hardest job I've ever had for sure. I work longer hours than I've ever worked before. It's super fulfilling. It's super satisfying. It's just amazing getting to build a team. And yeah, we have this office, painted the walls green, and it's not just an office to me. It's like our clubhouse. I think just that sense of like really ownership and fulfillment is something that I've never had before. And it's something that I don't think I could go back to having without. If Goodlawyer implodes tomorrow and there's no more Goodlawyer, I don't think I could just go get a regular 9-to-5 job. I'd probably be looking for something else to start with some friends. So I'd say personally is that sort of like sense of fulfillment. And then I'd say professionally as well is probably just more confidence, more assertiveness, and just really believing in myself and realizing that the product world is a world that is very challenging. It's very difficult and it's constantly changing. No one ever really has the answer the first time. And that doesn't mean that you're bad at product. It just means you got to keep going and find the right answers. I think that change has been really big. Even a couple of years ago, I'd get invited to be on a podcast or something like this. And I'd be like, really? Like, you guys want to talk to me? But now I'm like, okay, I know a couple things. I'm sure I can share some wisdom with some people. So
That is awesome. So we don't really have a script for this. And of course, we're open to questions. As product people, I'm not going to say we're like ultra judgy on products as they are. We are interacting with them in our day-to-day lives, but we know what goes into in creating some things and like the products that we interact with every day. Do you have another product in our ecosystem or outside of it that is also one of your faves for interacting with, and why?
That's a tough question. Actually, you're putting me on the spot here. I think one of the best products I've ever used has to be Figma. I don't know how much you guys use Figma, but it's incredible. And I love this. Adobe actually, maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, announced that they're no longer going to be supporting XD because it's basically just like this failed product. Everyone uses Figma now. And I just love all the stuff Figma is adding and how integrated they are to other companies and like component libraries and all this stuff. Like it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed using Figma. Other products though that I admire, I don't know so much if I would say other products that I admire, but other teams that I admire. I really admire Zayzoon and Bolster. Fortunately, we've been lucky enough to actually get into an office space with both of those companies. So this is kind of his first kick at the can on the scale-up tower. I'm sure you guys heard about the scale-up tower in other places, but yeah, credit to Brett. So where there's a will, there's a way, and he definitely willed this one into existence. We're sharing an office floor in the Telus Sky with Bolster, which was formerly Certified that just rebranded, and Zayzoon, which are two really awesome scale-up companies here out of Calgary. And it's just been so rewarding getting to share space with them and see how their leadership team does things and the kind of frameworks they're using and watching them work together. Yeah, just a ton of respect and admiration for those teams.
I love that because product is a team sport. Like, I honestly believe that the more we can get out of just our own perspective and our own context and just apply our line of sight to how other people are doing work, it can be a real relief to know that there's a lot in common between companies that are building products and the things that we struggle with, and just seeing the other approach of a different perspective outside of your context can accelerate practice. It's such a great idea.
It's also really nice too, seeing these companies that are like bigger than us and they're like doing things the way we do them sometimes too. So we're like, okay, we've got this one. We're on the right track with this.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say, because when you mentioned your consultant that you brought in, how are you referring to Simon?
He's part of the team. So
he's part of the team.
He's our head of product. That's the title he got.
Amazing. Yeah. And because you mentioned like his practices and he's worked for large companies and scale-ups, and a lot of them are the same. So I'm curious, based on like your experience working with him and seeing how others scale up, some that are bigger, some that are smaller, like what do you see that's common and different between how you all operate?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the biggest thing that has been like common that he's put us onto is the sort of experimentation frameworks and this idea of experimenting and doing bite-sized learnings. From the biggest companies that are amazing at products to the startups he advises through the VC funds and everything, experimentation is like the core piece of how they do product. And even the best companies at product that run experiments, they fail experiments all the time. So it's not Apple is out there hitting 100 and everything that they put out is perfect. The kind of average hit rate is about 25%. That's the stats that we're trying to aim for. Is if 1 in 4 of your experiments is a success, then that's great. That's like on par with the best product companies out there. Just being willing to fail and try stuff, I think, is a really common theme amongst successful companies.
Yeah, we could not agree more. And just hearing too about how before you built the fractional product, you did it all manually. Sometimes Christa, I often laugh because
behind the curtains.
Yeah. Like when
our
we're
product.
Exactly. Our product.
Yeah, concierge MVP.
Yeah. We laugh sometimes because we work with folks and it's, I want to build a product. And half the time, or maybe the majority of the time, our advice is build
it as a service first. Flush it out. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you do this
Totally.
afternoon that could help you understand that whole thing? Like, do you need an app for that? Maybe you might, but maybe you don't. Maybe it's not an app at all. When you think about, how products are developed and how the longer we stay with the problem, the less likely we are to overbuild, right? Because we understand what surrounds the problem in addition to our own biases, our fears. And again, when we go back to juggling, understanding feelings in development, which I'm sure when we talk about a legal tech product, talking about people's feelings at least half of the time as well as their needs has to be a little bit of a shift for culturally, like in the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just pulling on some threads for me, like in terms of shifts and who we're building stuff for too. It's been like very much when we were building the marketplace early days, it was a focus on the clients and making sure the clients had this awesome marketplace experience. But as we move into fractional and through all the discovery work and all the conversations we've had with both clients and lawyers, it's obvious that clients don't want another product. They don't need another platform or thing or technology to go use. They just need a lawyer to get integrated into their business as fast as possible and start delivering value. Whereas the lawyers, on the other hand, are like, oh my God, I've got X to deal with. I've got this to deal with. I've got all these parts of my firm. I'm worried about delivering good experiences to my clients. I'm worried about missing deadlines. I have all this work that I need to delegate to a junior or a paralegal, but I'm a solo, so I have to do it myself. It's okay. We're not building stuff for clients anymore. Clients just want a lawyer. We're building stuff for lawyers now so that lawyers can get integrated into the company really fast, deliver value really fast, find ways to delegate work that is eating into their schedule, make sure they don't miss any tasks that are in their task list. Like, it's just way more obvious that like the lawyer now is where we can ultimately still add more value, but also that value really gets translated to the client as well. Yeah. Just again, going back to like discovery and these kind of core principles and figuring out where the emotional needs are, where the social needs are, it was just way more obvious to us that the lawyers are the ones who have the big levers that we can pull.
And that's a huge discovery. We see that in so many marketplaces. You try to solve problems for both, and often you just lose track and you build this giant Frankenstein of a product that doesn't actually solve anything for anyone. But the fact that you chose the client first and then pivoted to the lawyers because you saw you had the biggest opportunity to provide the most value is just product management in action. So cool to hear.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been a very fun year, a lot of learning, a lot of stress, but yeah, I think everyone on the team is like, I'm super optimistic for the next year, the next couple of years.
Yeah. And then so in that optimism, so now you're probably starting to build, like when you were doing things manually. When did you decide you were ready to start build, and what was it that you decided to build first?
Yeah, so it was in about November that or maybe October that we said, okay, we need to start. This is validated. Fractional is going well. We're getting big logos. We're having good retention, good revenue. So let's actually start figuring out what to build. And that was the time where the stars aligned with Simon. We actually knew Simon from an accelerator program that we went through in 2022. He was one of the advisors that we had worked with, and he's been following us too. And he reached out to us and was like, hey, I'm done this like year stint at Arc'teryx. I'm like, do you guys need any help? And we were like, hell yeah, dude. Like, we definitely want your help. We got him onboarded at the end of November. And basically he said, okay, like, we're not building anything. Like, we're going back to basics, and we're going to do this like extensive discovery tour, talking to clients, talking to lawyers. We're going to develop a persona that we're building for. We're going to develop a product vision. So he ran the executive team through this like full day product vision workshop where we all came with our ideas, our thoughts, and then I took all that stuff away and really compiled it into a narrative, like a long form 3-page product vision. And then, we all reviewed it together, agreed on it, and said, okay, this is what we're doing for the next 12 months at least. So getting everyone aligned on that was really big. And then the thing that we decided to build first was one of the pieces that was being run manually by the operations team. So the way fractional mandates work is that they're for a set number of hours. A lawyer will get hired for 20 hours a month type thing. And part of what the lawyer does is they have to report their utilization to us. So they have to report how many hours they're at. So if they're going under consistently, then we'll maybe downscale the mandate and we'll adjust it to 15 hours a month. Or if they're consistently going over, we do the opposite and we'll maybe upscale the mandate. So that utilization piece was something that was also a really big indicator of mandates that were not doing well or that were going to churn. So if we had a mandate for a month, 2 months, 3 months in a row where they were constantly doing half the hours that they were supposed to be doing, whether that was a client issue or a lawyer issue, doesn't matter. But that was a really big indicator to us that those are the mandates we need to intervene on and really provide that good lawyer value of helping figure out why the mandate isn't going well, helping figure out how we can actually get that lawyer ramped up and get the clients to be feeding that lawyer work. So the way we were doing that manually was we were sending out a form by email, bi-monthly, every 15th and last day of the month. We were sending a form to our lawyers and saying, hey, report your utilization and tell us about the health of the mandate. So that was the first core piece that we actually built as a product, was this platform where lawyers can log in. And instead of waiting for this bi-monthly survey, they can log in once a week, twice a week, once a month, whenever they want to report their utilization, give us a little bit of an indicator on the health of the mandate. So we built that product and we rolled it out just this month, actually, just the 1st of February is when we officially launched it and onboarded all the mandates. So I've basically just been chasing lawyers to get them to sign on and start using the app and give us some feedback and make sure everything's working well. But yeah, that was the first core piece that we built. And now some of the things that we are looking at adding into it as experiments are the idea of docketing. So getting a little bit more granular on how the time is being spent. This is really important for in-house teams, in-house legal teams. They need to say, I spent X number of hours with the sales team. I spent X number of hours with the marketing team, X with the finance team, because that helps them do their budget allocations. So that's a really important thing for in-house teams, which we've learned through discovery. So now adding in some more of those features. So when a lawyer reports their time, instead of saying, yeah, I've done 15 hours in the first 2 weeks, they can say, I did 5 hours with sales. I did 3 hours with marketing. I did 7 hours with finance. Building in some more of those, a little bit more granular things. Another experiment we're running is some like sentiment analysis. So even just using like emojis we're like asking lawyers to tell us, how's this mandate going? How's your relationship with the client? And we just gave them a few emojis they can pick from. Just like really simple features, but things that I think build goodwill with the lawyers. It shows the lawyers that like we're on their side and we're like here to help them and intervene. If they put a sad face on a mandate, like that, like immediately jumps to the top of our priorities to go help this lawyer and figure out how to improve the mandate. And it also is giving a bit of like transparency to how they work with clients as well. We're getting a lot of value out of just some really simple, small feature tweaks.
Power of emojis.
Emojis, man. It's so delicious.
Oh gosh, yes, they really are.
Do they get to choose from a turd one? Do we get to see?
Actually,
That's the most popular one in Canada. In the
turd. Oh my
that out there. Yeah, the turd emoji.
I like that. I might actually make a little swap in here. Swap for friendly out for turd.
Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that's the last time Tom's coming to me for product advice.
No.
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
get straight to the point sometimes. I know we've
100%.
definitely,
Yeah.
we've all, I don't think you're a product person unless you've heard someone say that your product is caca. That is,
It's a great segue. Do you think, Tom, because we all have epic, some of us have more epic fuck-ups than others in product. Do you think for the sake of some of our students and folks that are looking to pivot, can you share a bit of an epic story of where things went sideways? And if there's one that where you actually knew it wasn't going to succeed and maybe you just hoped for the best.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say the biggest product sort of failure we've had was we tried to bring on in-house incorporations and annual corporate returns back on the marketplace side. Instead of hiring a lawyer to do your incorporation, we actually built it into the platform so you could fill out these like incorporation forms. And then those forms would all get passed off to a third party that we were using that would actually file the incorporation, and they would upload documents back onto the platform for you. And I think we did this one a little bit out of maybe a response or a reaction to another competitor that was building this product, and that was like the core focus of their product, and they were making good revenue off of it, and they were growing really well. It was a good business for them. So we were okay, like we should build our own in-house incorporation product. And we built it for, I want to say 2 months. It took us to build this thing, and then we rolled it out, and it was like so customer support intensive. Like it required so much education still from the clients in order to be able to fill out these forms properly. It required so much customer support work in terms of people would submit their forms and immediately want to be like, where's my incorporation? How long is this going to take? How do I file the next piece? Whatever. So it was like, not only did we have to educate customers, we had to educate our customer support team. It also introduced this idea of third-party management, where we were constantly also having to work with the company that was doing the incorporations and the filings themselves, and like coordinating with them, coordinating with client, coordinating with the app. So that one was, I think, trouble out of the gate. It was very difficult. And we ran that product for probably close to a year, maybe a little less than a year. And then we ultimately just decided to retire it. We said we looked at how much revenue we were making from it, how much it was actually costing us to do this from a man hours and resources point of view, and just said, let's can this. This is not worth the hassle that it's bringing us. We'll have a couple lawyers on the platform who are really good and cost effective for doing incorporations and annual corporate returns, and they'll just be run through the marketplace the way that they've always been. Big lesson there for sure. We bid off this project without actually validating that it was something our customers wanted to do. And we did it, like I said, as a bit of a response and a reaction to a competitor. And it just wasn't an idea that was like super validated with our business and our customers and our lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And part of that job too is that intuition too, where some of your spidey senses going off during that journey saying, I don't know. Can you tell us a little bit about how that felt? Because we are that person in the room that does have some of those tingly things, but we don't often have the confidence to put our hand up and say, I don't think this is going to work, because we have people in the room who've already decided it's a thing and maybe they know more than I do. Can you talk a little bit about how that felt for you in that time?
Yeah, I'd say maybe this was like looking back with maybe a bit of the time where I was less assertive and less confident in my own gut and the numbers, looking at the competitor, the value that they were creating for their clients was like, it was super compelling. Don't get me wrong. They're a huge company. They make a lot of money doing this stuff. It was attractive, but at the same time, it was like a departure from what we do. Like, we're a marketplace where we match clients and lawyers to do a fixed fee service. And now all of a sudden we're building this product that is just going to be like a self-serve client thing. There's going to be no lawyer involvement. I think it was just too much of a departure from our kind of our
Core mission.
product ethos and our mission of really helping these clients and lawyers work well together on a fixed fee basis. Yeah, I think definitely if something like that were to come up today, I would have dug my heels in a lot more than I did at the time.
Gets us away from our ideal customer, gets us away from the business model that we thought that we were. Right? And a great product vision and strategy keeps us centered and core to that. So cool. Thank you for sharing that. It's not always easy to talk about the blunders, but we all have them. And some of them are just like, they're bombs. It's okay, but that's product, right? We all, again, come this from a place of like deep curiosity, and it's not perfect. It's never perfect. And if it's perfect, that's weird. There's something that you missed or didn't consider, right? That you're about to learn later. You just don't know yet.
Yeah. And on the silver lining of it is we learned a lot from it. There's a reason that we ran the fractional stuff manually for like almost a year, is because we were like, we're not building shit until this is validated and we know people are going to buy it and want it, right? So you got to learn from every failure for sure.
You do. And on that, we're nearing the end. So, Tom, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We just absolutely love talking to you. Your stories are so unique. You're right. You do have so much to offer. And so for the last closing words, what would you say to anyone who's interested in pursuing product or entrepreneurship?
Yeah. Okay. I'd say two different questions there. So for entrepreneurship, I'd say it's the most gratifying thing you'll ever do. Even when things fail, it's an opportunity to learn. It's the hardest job I've ever had. It's the most I've ever worked. It's the most stressful job I've ever had, without a doubt. But I've also never had anything this rewarding and this satisfying and this gratifying. That entrepreneurship journey is really special. It's not for everybody, of course, but it is for me. I definitely think if you think you want to be an entrepreneur, at least try it. At least do what you can to give it an honest kick at the can, because it might change your life. And then as for people who want to get into product, I gave this advice last week to the students at the Product Society Club, because you can get into product from so many different avenues, whether it's, computer science, design, business analytics, finance, whatever. I would say find the things that you are good at and that you enjoy doing. And instead of trying to really build some like new skill, if you have no idea how to do design, don't feel like you have to go out there and learn design to be able to be a product person. I'd say find what you're good at, find something you like doing, and then try to like plot a course into product using those skills. Yeah, I know product people who are terrible designers, but they're really good product managers. And like, for me, like, I'm technically like, I'm a potato. Like, I talk to Parker and like, I have no idea what's going on. From a technical, like computer science development point of view, I think Parker and I work well together because we've found that sort of mix of people that fill the gap in the skills, right? So that's, I think you mentioned earlier, product that touches so many different parts of the business. And it's just about surrounding yourself with the people that fill the skills that you don't have.
Words to live by.
Thank you so much, Tom. And thank you everyone who joined us for this conversation. Yeah, let us know what you thought. Send us your feedback. We love these Fridays. Thank you again, Tom. And we will see everybody next time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Have a great weekend.
You too. Okay. Can't wait to see you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, rate and review this podcast, and you might find your review in a future episode. Please subscribe to Product for Humans wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. To get more information about Product for Humans and our content, please visit our website at tacit-edge.com, tacit-edge.com. We'll see you next time. Okay? Should we do it one more time?
Sweet. Yeah, let's do it.